Welcome, everybody. We're here today to celebrate the recipient of the Joyce Cain Award, CIS. And I wanted to welcome everybody. My name is Karen Monkman, and I'm president of CIS this year. I'm going to introduce Kara Brown, and she's going to take it from here. Kara Brown is our awards chair. She's an associate professor in the Department of Educational Studies at University of South Carolina and is a recent co-chair of the Language Issues SIG. Her research is on language policy and equity in education in Estonia and the southeastern US. She has served as award chair 2 years in a row, and she's done a stellar job. So over to you, Kara.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you all for joining us and watching this online. It's wonderful to be here and celebrate this awardee. I'm going to just introduce the background, the history of the award a little bit, and then hand it off to the sub-award chair. Each year, CIS recognizes an outstanding scholarly article that explores themes related to people of African descent with its Joyce Cain Award. Proposed by the Underrepresented Racial, Ethnic, and Ability Groups Committee, and approved by the CIS Board of Directors in 2000, the Joyce Cain Award for Distinguished Research on African Descendants is awarded to honor the memory of Joyce Lynn Cain, a colleague whose scholarship on African descendants reflected her dedication to introducing individuals across ethnic boundaries to African culture. Dr. Joyce Lynn Cain, teacher, researcher, practitioner, and international scholar, was one of the early researchers who combined her extraordinary skill as a public school teacher with research focused on the preparation of teachers to teach minority children in school settings. She was a forerunner in conducting comparative research on minority students in the USA and Africa. It was her love of the African cultures and heritage that led her to be an advocate and an advisor to African countries, particularly Zimbabwe. She was inspired to plan study trips to Africa for others in the US and was called on as a consultant for international agencies such as the US Agency for International Development. She was a loyal member of the faculty of Michigan State University, where she served as an associate professor of teacher education until her passing in 1996. Her focus on and attention to the importance of Africa has inspired many researchers and practitioners. This award is conferred to an outstanding scholarly article that explores themes related to people of African descent. The article may report research concerning Africans in any part of Africa or in the diaspora in contemporary and/or historical contexts. It fulfills the requirements of academic excellence and reflects the scholarly purpose of the society: comparative, cross-cultural, interdisciplinary, and international global studies, contributing to the interpretation of development of education in broad and interrelated economic, political, and societal contexts. The chair of the Joyce Cain Award Committee this year is my wonderful colleague, also former Language Issues SIG chair, Desmond Odugu. He's an associate professor and chair of education at Lake Forest College, where he serves as the director for the Humanities 2020 Mellon Foundation Grant Initiative. His interests in language, education, and social change, and in the historiography of education, have led to field research in several African countries and publications in both the fields of language and education on one hand, and history of education on the other. He has active research on race, segregation, and the educational and social experiences of people of African descent in the US. Desmond was also a former Joyce Cain Award recipient, so it comes full circle here. I am thrilled to hand over the virtual floor to Desmond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kara, for that very kind introduction. And thank you also, President Monkman, and award recipient, Michelle Bellino. Before I get to introducing Michelle and a number of other things, I just wanted to say a few words of appreciation for the opportunity to review the materials that were submitted, and to do so in collaboration with a number of outstanding scholars and colleagues at CIES who were on the Joyce Cain Award Committee. And to introduce them briefly in no particular order. We have Rebecca Bayek and Mohammed Awale, who is at Illinois State University, Tutaleni Asino at Oklahoma State University, and LaGarrett King at University of Missouri. We all thoroughly enjoyed reading these works that were submitted and had very productive conversations about them. I should note, however, it was a very difficult decision to make this year because all the papers that were submitted were quite outstanding in their own various ways. However, I think the committee was unanimous in its decision that Dr. Bellino's work with the title Education, Merit, and Mobility, Opportunities and Aspirations of Refugee Youth in Kenya's Kakuma Refugee Camp, which was published by the British Educational Research Journal in 2021, August 2021. This publication certainly stood out above these other submissions for a number of reasons that I think the committee and members of the review team articulated, and I'll mention them briefly. One of the reviewers says that Bellino's study is on education, merit, and mobility in Kenya's Kakuma refugee camp is perhaps the most rigorous, with excellent literature, drew from different theoretical models, and is empirically sound. The conclusions support research questions. The design has practical implications for refugee students in Africa, especially East Africa. And for that reason, they considered this the best selection for this piece. Another reviewer says that this article certainly reports an ethnographic study that took place over the span of 3 years, focusing on a refugee camp in Kenya. And given the importance of trying to understand education in emergencies, and given that refugees can often be overlooked, this manuscript makes an important scholarly contribution. The reviewer further notes that the theoretical aspect of this paper was quite strong, and that the author speaks quite well about the issues from a range of perspectives that they consider very useful from a comparative education perspective. And for that reason also, they consider this perhaps the obvious choice for this year's award. Now, to introduce Dr. Bellino briefly, Dr. Bellino is at the University of Michigan School of Education as assistant professor, where she has been for a few of, sorry, as associate professor at the School of Education. My apologies there, Dr. Bellino, where she has been now for a couple of years. And she has continued to conduct a range of studies on topics that I think would be of interest to anyone in comparative international education. But her research centers on the intersection between education and youth civic development, with particular attention to contexts impacted by armed conflict and forced displacements. Of course, across diverse settings, she explores how experiences with violence, asylums, and peace and justice processes influence young people's participation in schools and society, future aspirations, as well as educational access and inclusion. It was certainly an honor, like I said earlier, to have read this piece along with other pieces, and to continue the long tradition of the Joyce Cain Award of recognizing exceptional scholarship on people of African descent. And on that note, we're very delighted to make that decision to offer this award to you, Dr. Bellino. And thank you for submitting this work.
Thank you so much for what a lovely introduction. I'm so honored to be receiving this award. I want to thank you, Dr. Odugu, for that beautiful introduction, very generous. And it's so exciting to hear how others receive your work, and something we rarely get to access. I want to also thank the other award committee members and the CIES community, which has been such a strong anchor for me throughout this work and other projects. It's such an honor to have my work recognized with this award and to be in such good company today. I'm looking forward to sharing this great news with the young people in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya, who've been part of this work with me for the last several years, and who are continuing to move their way through the formal educational system and the informal economy in this context, which do not always connect. And this is one of the sources of tension that this article takes on, as well as the affective dimension of what it means to learn in this context. This research has sort of two methodological components, and one is ethnographic, and that part has been very difficult to maintain from afar. But the other piece is a youth participatory action research component. And so young people here are my collaborators in this research in a lot of ways. And right now we've had to put this work on hold due to COVID and other kinds of travel restrictions. But we're really looking forward to finding ways to take it forward together as a collaborative endeavor. So to the young people, it's been a real privilege to be invited into your life and your struggles to make learning meaningful in a context where so much is tenuous and so much is unknown, and where hope can be sort of a double-edged sword in many ways. I want to thank Mohamed Hore from UNHCR, who's been just a steadfast collaborator and supporter of this work, and my friends, colleagues, and mentors in Sarah Dryden Peterson, Elizabeth Edelman, and Vidor Chopra, among others. None of this would be possible without all of you challenging and encouraging me. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Bellino, and congratulations on being the 2022 Joyce Cain Award recipient. We've been very delighted to get to know your work, and we'll be following that work for many years to come. Congratulations again.
And congratulations. We're absolutely thrilled that you are this year's Joyce Cain awardee.
And I also want to say congratulations. And I think CIS is very lucky to have some wonderful scholars and colleagues like you. And I look forward to following your work into the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.